I think it was important to use the actual voices of the participants in the show, because I've seen shows before where they have interpreted like working class people, for example, and they've put Burberry caps on and they've gone yeah and speak like they're in EastEnders. So for me, it's always about having that voice, that actual literal voice blasted out on the main stage. When we talk about participation, we talk about the experiences of people who have participated within the show. So our volunteers, the people that told their stories. And again, it's about a level of care with that, to be able to say, we're not just going to take your story and then you're going to bugger off, because that feels like slightly unsolicited exchange. It feels kind of a bit like we're using you for our own creative gain. So and this is in all of the shows that we've done at Downtown, we bring everyone into the process. We never want it to feel like we're using someone in aid of this. We're all experiencing this and we will work with it to create something which harbours a generosity that feels balanced. So, you know, a lot of our participants have always been invited to come in at the process, to watch rehearsals, see what their voices are, meet some of the people that might be, you know, lip syncing to their verbatim, and just to feel that they're part of our community. I think it's also worth noting that the characters are individual characters. They're not replications of individual people, but they help the building blocks to what that looks like, so that when they watch it, they go, yeah, I feel happy that that was how my story was dealt with. So it was important for that reason, but also, and this is where Tom Marshman came in really helpful in this kind of consultant dramaturg role, was because actually you have to have a level of honesty with what you're presenting back to people. They've offered you those stories. There has to be a level of care back to present them in a way at which they were told. You know, the good, the bad and the ugly. When we're creating some of the characters, particularly one of that was really interesting was the character of Steve. Now, Steve initially was like so blokey, so laddie, so almost kind of grotesque. That's how I initially envisaged it. But actually, when we met Chris, who is the person who told a lot of that story, he was quite soft and gentle and generous and all the things that I didn't think that we were gonna get, he was. So that has to be reinterpreted, right? Because you can't turn someone's story and go, well, I want it this way, because we're editing in a way which feels dishonest to that experience. Obviously, there's always going to be a level of artistic integrity and perspective on it, but if we can find some relationship and balance to it, then those people are going to be able to go, I feel proud of that, and I feel proud that I've given that story.
I think it's important to shine a light on these voices in this context, because I think the show really actually does address that. History is made for the victors, I think is the line in the show. And it's like, these are stories about real people, and these real people's experiences, and often they're people like either from marginalised backgrounds, working class backgrounds, you know, and some of those stories have been forgotten about, or they're deemed as less important. So this is an opportunity to really celebrate them and talk about them and talk about what was important to those people in those moments, really. And so often I think the participants that Downton have spoken to, they're reflecting back probably on their youths, really, and those are formative moments where they can speak in a kind of hazy, nostalgic way about how it used to be. But we can also learn something from that, really. I think there's a level of care as well that has been explored through this show around audiences, and I think audiences are part of that equation. So it's about their care, really, how the performers look after the audiences and how the work holds people, because people that are coming to this performance, they will bring their own baggage to the work as well, and they need to be supported with that.
So we wanted it to be immersive because we want people to have a stake in it. We want them to feel like they're in a nightclub in the 80s. We wanted it to feel real and tangible. And we really wanted to have that shift in the third act when they're suddenly pushed to the sides, and then have those feelings that people who lost those spaces have. We wanted them to go on that journey with us, and we feel the best way to do that is to physically take them. Joanna's was a real place that was lost, and those people still feel that loss. I think the reason it's important to tell it through these real stories is that they feel they've lost spaces. We had people who didn't even go to Joanna's come, people who went to Ritzy's, Central Park, Chaos on the Pier in the 90s, because everyone's feeling that. And we could have made it up and we could have created something, but we wanted our narrative to follow the narrative that actually happened.
Part of this show being a verbatim piece is so important because it gives people a space where they feel like they can belong. Often with theatre, there can be this hierarchical system, this class system, where some people may feel like actually that place feels exclusive and that they can't be involved. So I think having these stories that are from local people of Portsmouth is just a really beautiful and important element of this show to say, we are here, this space is for you. It's not to be scared of. And I think the way that we're staging this work, where it is an intimate audience, I think it's only an audience of 50. So it feels really held and a place to champion the voices of those that might not necessarily have their voices heard in a day-to-day setting. So I think that is so important about this work.
I'm Dee. I gave Josh an interview in the summer. The character Denise, obviously that was me. I don't think we've ever been able to talk about like Joanna's and all our time there. It just wasn't. There's never been a time or a place to be able to relive, apart from with a few friends. And of course, they've all moved on now. I mean, I was like 16, 17, so I wasn't even old enough to drink. But I used to work behind the the burger bar. And well, yeah, I would say it was interesting, It was just the 80s for me. That was, my era. That was bringing back all my memories, all my fun times. And it was just fun, just to see all the audience just, participating in that. It was brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic. Everybody from, the dancers to the fabulous Josh, to all the backstage, the crew, everyone, it was just literally said thank you, for literally bringing my story to, just to life, It was brilliant.
So she came on the first show and she loved it and loved everything I'd done with the character as well, which is really nice as well because you don't know how you're going to play it. Like when I initially heard her voice, to then reenact that and embody that, almost bringing Cherry into it and someone else, but also paying attention to be out of drag. Like in this show, I lip sync, dance, there's choreo, acting in a different way to what Cherry would. So it's just enabled me to explore stuff. It was difficult, especially when I've been Cherry for 14 years and played the character of Cherry and what Cherry was. And the beauty in this, Josh has almost said, bring Cherry into this. But meeting someone and almost wanting to do them justice and not them come to the show and be like, oh, that's actually nothing what I was like. Almost you feel that you want to impress them. And especially with like the skill of like lip sync and stuff like that, I want her to come away from it and go, actually, that is quite a good representation of what it was.
I feel like I'm really lucky. I was the only cabaret member to not actually meet the participant, which meant that I had a completely blank slate. I just had the words and the way he spoke them. And so I remember really early on noticing how he was so critical of Joanna's and yet was so quick to brush away any critique of Martha's. So like, Joanna's it stank, it was this, but Martha's, someone broke the windows, it's just chicken wire left, but you can get fresh air there, right? He's able to find the silver lining in the place that he cares about, but he has no care for Joanna's whatsoever. And so it's been really interesting playing with his character because he comes out during the show. Like it's hinted at that he's queer really early on in the show, but like he's trying to fake it. He's like really trying to, as Cherry's character says, you're trying to pretend to be one of the lads, not I like the lads. So I'm really playing that up in the first act and a half, 2 acts. And it's not until later in the show where I come out, where you get to see Rob as a character actually have fun. It's not until later in the show where I'm allowed to have fun as a character because he's come out and he's come out to who he is. And he has so much power in that. My character has such a strong arc throughout the show and he has the most change from beginning to end. Because he really does start off the most upset and the most negative and the most like one way. And then as the show progresses, he gets this huge transformation and becomes a really joyful and excited and lovely person where he gets to be who he actually is and not who he's pretending to be.